What else are you selling? Maybe you have a prototype of an app, or maybe you have a prototype of a physical thing, but in general, you are selling an idea. We have this on a wall in my factory. If it was easy, everyone would do it. If you do something that's really, really difficult, not only will you learn and expand who you are as an individual, but you will do something that will be very difficult to copy. I mean, we have 29 patents, so we have verifiable proof that what we've done has never been done.
Melissa Snover, a serial entrepreneur, investor, and the founder of Nourished, the world's first personalized 3D printed nutrition brand.
Once you make it past your third year and you're still alive, you have made it, regardless of the size of your business, to be honest. I found a huge gap that was really important specifically to me that was missing in a market. It became an obsession. And so I would love to say that it was really well thought out and I was like, screw it, just do it.
Welcome to Screw It, Just Do It, the show for those who decided to screw it and just did it. I'm Alex Chisnall, host of this podcast and co-founder of the Festival of Entrepreneurs at the NEC in Birmingham this October 8th and 9th. This is the podcast that brings you face-to-face with the entrepreneurs and business rebels who threw caution to the wind and built something extraordinary. Quick heads up, registration is now open for this year's Festival of Entrepreneurs. Join us at the NEC in Birmingham on October the 8th and 9th for 2 game-changing days with 200 plus speakers and thousands of ambitious founders. Get your free limited 2-day pass at festivalofentrepreneurs.co.uk or click my personal link in the show notes.
Welcome, Melissa.
Hi, it's great to be here. Nice to see you.
Yeah, good to see you again. I want to kick things off by asking, what pushed you to go all in on building something yourself? Was there a screw it, just do it moment that made you literally decide to do this, what you're building now?
Well, as you mentioned in my intro, this is actually not my first rodeo. I've actually started several companies, and all of those companies kind of had a general theme that links them together, which is I found a huge gap that was really important specifically to me that was missing in a market. And it became an obsession. And so I would love to say that it was really well thought out and I was like, screw it, just do it. But I actually became so obsessed that it was the only way that I could, solve my own obsession. I think that is really a defining characteristic that I've found in most entrepreneurs. We are not okay with accepting the status quo and the norm as, oh, it's just not available. This is just the way it is. And our natural mindset is to do something different, to fix it, to change it. And that's really been my journey.
What was the first problem that you ultimately tried to solve then?
So my first consumer brand was called Goody Good Stuff, and it was vegan, allergen-free, all natural gummy candy. And I made it for myself because I have been a vegetarian, not a vegan, but a vegetarian since the 90s, the early 90s, like way before there was a whole aisle in the supermarket for plant-based. And there was a huge amount of, commercially available solutions. And when I went vegetarian, and was vegetarian for quite a long time at that stage, the only thing that I really, really missed was gummy candy. And I could not find a single gummy candy in the market, which was gelatin free, which is the big difference between not being vegetarian and being vegetarian, or that tasted like wax. Because there are some products that are made with a starch, like giant strawberries from Haribo, for example, are vegetarian, but they are so chewy, it's not a real gummy. And so I basically started to investigate hydrocolloid technology, which is basically gelling agents. In traditional gummies, they're using gelatin, which is coming from animals. So I started to look at what are the alternatives in the plant-based world. I started taking classes at Lancaster University around hydrocolloid technology and formulation technology, and started developing recipes in my kitchen. And I was able to make a recipe that was really, really good, but I had nowhere to make it. So I was very lucky to have a great group of people around us at the time that were able to support us in finding some other people to help make the products. And that really led me to my current business, where I have developed a new manufacturing technology at the very base of what we do. The single biggest differential is mainstream manufacturing has been set up to make lots and lots of the same thing over and over again at a reasonable value. And while that is great for some things, I think it's actually really not fit for purpose for a lot of things, most namely health. And by developing a totally new technology that could, in effect, make a unique product for each individual person around about at the same speed and a reasonable price as normal products might come across to the market, we would be able to make a massive impact in global health. And so that's really, yeah, another example of I was not happy with mainstream manufacturing. I wanted to make it more agile, more flexible, and more fit for purpose for today's changing consumer demands.
And when you started out on that journey, Melissa, what were some of those first obstacles that you had to overcome? And you strike me as someone that's doesn't take no for an answer. That's pretty resilient. Now that's not going to stop you, given what you've done over the last decade or so with this business. What were some of those first hurdles that you overcame?
So this business was founded in 2019. And I think, when I first started working on the base technology, I originally thought, okay, I can probably go to another manufacturer of 3D printers and ask them to work with me to speed up my route to market, to get some really great know-how and, inherent expertise around 3D printing. Because at that time, I had never used a 3D printer in my life before. And so I went to every single major name, and I'm not going to name and shame them all, but you can imagine who they are, the biggest 3D printing companies that you can think of. And I went to them all and they said, shouldn't be done, can't be done for less than $6 million in 10 years. And so I said, I'm not a patient woman. I do not have said $6 million. And so I'm going to see if I can figure this out myself. And so I bought 3D printers off the internet. I took them apart. I put them back together painstakingly and basically taught myself basic mechanical engineering, taught myself G code, which is the machine driver code that controls machines. So there are lots and lots of different coding languages, but every machine that moves around is using something called G code. So if you have, for example, an automatic vacuum in your house, that's using G code, etc. And so I taught myself G code. And I also developed a really cool, an additional hydrocolloid technology, which would allow for us to basically 3D print gummy. And I think that's really the second biggest challenge that I had. Because in traditional gummy manufacturing, if you've never been to a gummy factory, you might not know this, but basically you are depositing a material that is so hot and so liquid that it takes between 2 to 5 days to dry. So if I was to take that recipe that would be used in any kind of manufacturing that existed today, or even if you make them at home, you have to put them in the fridge, you have to wait a consistent period of time. That would never work in a 3D printer, would it? Because that would literally print a puddle of nothing. And so I actually had to work as hard, if not harder, alongside some amazing R&D specialists to create a gelling agent technology that basically is possible to reverse. And so let me explain it in common language. So if you've ever made jelly for trifle or something, you get powder from the supermarket, right? And you put boiling water, flavor and color, sometimes it's already added in. You stir it until it is uniform, and then you put it into the fridge, right? Then you wait. Now, what you've done then is you have actually set the hydrocolloid bond. So you've taken a dry powder of a hydrocolloid, you've added water, the bond has basically set around the water molecules, which is what is making it jelly. Now, if you take that out of the refrigerator, you put it into the microwave, the oven, in the hot sun today, and it will melt again. And then you try and put it back in the fridge, it will not reset. And the reason for that is up until we figured out how to do this special material science technology, the total world of hydrocolloid science would tell you that once you break a hydrocolloid bond, you cannot reset it. And we found a way to infinitely hyper-suspend, break, and reset hydrocolloid bonds in pectin, allowing us to 3D print them. So those were both very big challenges. but have taught me. I always think the biggest challenges teach you the most. And so every time it happens to me now, as I'm, this is my fourth company. I used to look at it like, oh my God, the world's going to end. But now I look at it like, this is going to be a great education. And I actually get a bit excited underneath.
Yeah, great. And do you mean like when when things start getting hard and you're getting like those no's and things aren't working, you actually think, I'm going to learn a lot from this, and quite often, isn't it? It's what comes out the other side is the actual learning. You just need to embrace it and move towards it.
Yeah, absolutely. We have this on a wall in my factory. If it was easy, everyone would do it. If you do something that's really, really difficult, not only will you learn and expand who you are as an individual, but you will do something that will be very difficult to copy. Now, I mean, we have 29 patents, so we have verifiable proof that what we've done has never been done. And that is really difficult to do, to be able to create a competitive moat around your business. And it gets more and more difficult every day because more and more things are coming out, more and more things are being protected. Creating protective moats is harder now, I think, than ever before. And so if you can do that, if you can do something that's really difficult and you have the wherewithal to be able to get through that, on the other side, if persistence wins, you will have something that is really difficult to copy.
And where are those qualities that you've got to have embraced those challenges and to learn from, ultimately, things failing and not doing what you want them to do? Where does that come from?
I think also my upbringing, my father was an engineer, my mother was self-employed. From a very young age, they set an example for me to, if I didn't know something, look it up. This is back in the day for the young people when we had books of encyclopedias. Yeah, I know. I feel like a dinosaur, but and so they would teach me to look everything up. We did a lot of hands-on stuff. My dad had a workshop in the basement. And I think that those things gave me the foundational skills to think that's the normal way to deal with things when they become difficult, is arm yourself with knowledge, learn, and you can overcome it. Everything is easy when you know what you're doing.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And what motivates you? What motivates you now? Like, is the why when you set up the business different to your why now?
Our mission as a business has not changed. Our mission is to bring personalized health to the world, to make it accessible for as many people as possible in as many formats and as many combinations as are needed, and supportive to improve human health through science. So that has not changed. But my personal reason for doing it probably has evolved, because when I started out, it was me and like 3 people. And now I have over 150 people. And actually, a lot of the reasons why have to do with my amazing team, who I feel so grateful for every day. I don't think that it's normal to have built a business in a short period of time with that many people, and to have such an amazing group of people who are equally committed and care deeply about what we're trying to do, and who make coming to work every day fun, and who help not just me, but the whole business achieve its goals on a daily basis. And so each and every one of our team, after passing probation, are given shares through our EMI plan. And so the limit with EMI is 250 people, which is annoying because one day we will get to that. But at the moment, every single new joiner is given shares. And so everyone from manual labor workers in the factory, the cleaner, to the C-suite have shares in the business. And so my goal, and one of the reasons that I push very hard now, is to make sure that all of them walk away with an amazing experience and change your life money.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I remember chatting with Al Barrett from Grenade and saying, when you've got that kind of number of people working for you, some of the feel good factors and the reason you do it is when they sold their business for I think north of 200 million, it's people being able to pay off their mortgages or treat themselves to that dream holiday. And I was like, oh, that makes me feel great. I love hearing stories like that. But what about the challenges of going from 3 to like, north of 100? Talk to me about that then. How's that been? Because, I've done, I think, over 600 episodes of this now, and no matter who I speak to, whether it's a startup or it's, exited $1 billion business, it seems to be the number one challenge is hiring people and then retaining that talent. Has that been the same for you, or have you got different experience, Melissa?
I think hiring the right people is difficult to do, especially when you're trying to do it at speed, right? I think you can do anything well if you do it slowly. But if you have to move really quickly, um, you will absolutely make some mistakes, and it's just part and parcel of the game. And I think you have to accept that. I think what we have learned and what I have learned, this is the most employees that I've ever had. I think the closest to this was like 20. So this is a lot bigger, right? So this is a lot bigger. And I think one of the things that we've learned is you shouldn't hold on to people that you can tell are not going to make it for whatever reason. They're either not well suited to a startup environment, or they don't share the same values as the rest of the team. They don't fit into the culture. They oversold themselves on their CV, and they don't actually have the baseline skills that they said they did. And I think in the very beginning, we didn't do that. We acted very much like a family business. We held on to people way too long. We gave people a lot of chances, and we actually slowed down our growth because we didn't, for them and for us, didn't make those decisions quickly and correctly. I think now we don't do that. We have a 6-month probation for everyone, and we're having meetings with the new joiners on a weekly basis. There's constant communication about how things are going. We give each party, us and them, the best chance of success. But if it's not working, we don't beat around the bush about it. We make it clear right away. We have a very high retention rate for a scale up, and I'm really proud of it. My entire management team were with me on like day 10. Right. So this is cool. I think this is cool. 2 of my team, my CTO and my CSO, were actually with me in my previous company, Magic Candy Factory, and came with me. So we've been working together over 10 years. So we have a ton of people within the business that have been with us for like 4 years, 4.5 years. The business is just 5 years old. So this is I think, really cool. A lot of the newer people are in the facility. They're doing operational work. They've been added to teams. And, I think that's great. We don't have very many people who leave, surprisingly, after their probation. So if we all love what's going on at the end of probation, it usually works really well. And I think that it took a long time for us to really fine tune that probationary plan so that we would really be upfront with them about what we need, what they get back in return, and either you love it or you don't love it. It is what it is. And you have to love it if you're going to work hard at it, right? So I think that's key.
If you're enjoying this conversation and thinking, I need to be around more people like this, then I've got the perfect solution for you. The Festival of Entrepreneurs is where 5,000 to 10,000 ambitious entrepreneurs come together to learn from the people who've actually done it. It's on October the 8th and 9th at the NEC in Birmingham, and I'm giving my listeners free 2-day passes. Real entrepreneurs, real stories, real strategies. Exactly like what you're hearing right now, but live and in person. Go to festivalofentrepreneurs.co.uk and get your free 2-day pass before they're gone.
I think sometimes the people who start with you aren't the people who have got the ability or the skills or the appetite, like you say, to go from startup to scale up to see the project through to the very end. At what point did you think you moved into being a startup to a scale up? Like, could you actually remember how the business was changing and how quickly things were changing? You're like, all of a sudden, actually, we're not a startup business anymore. We're actually maturing as a business quite quickly.
I don't pay a lot of attention to these definitions. I think, to be honest, I know there's like government definitions about what it means. I think once you make it past your 3rd year and you're still alive, you have made it, regardless of the size of your business, to be honest. Not that you've made it for the long term, but you've made it to the next phase. You're no longer really a startup. I think we do brand new things all the time. So it constantly feels like a startup still. And I think that is something I'm very happy about and I want to keep. I think our startup mentality is unique. And I think one of the biggest things that I see in businesses that go from startup to scale up that all the founders regret, no one has a positive word to say about it, is the loss of the startup mentality. And I think that's really key. Can we be a startup mentality business with the level of investment and regulatory compliance and governance that we have, which we are audited by the FDA 3 days they come to our factory. It is not a joke. We are operating at the same level as Mondelez, Unilever from a compliance and regulatory standpoint. We are third party audited by a big four accountant. We have raised close to 20 million in investment. So we have a huge amount of governance, but can we do that without losing the startup mentality in the business? And so far we have done that, and we spend a lot of energy on it. We really encourage the team, not just with lip sync about collaborate, innovation. No, they actually get rewarded for talking about failure. And I think that's actually something that very few businesses do. We have Friday fails, and whoever has the worst fail actually gets a prize. There's a prize that changes all the time, but there's a prize. And this is really to show that failing is not a negative, and to reiterate it and show and remind people on a weekly basis or a monthly basis, depending on how busy we are, how important failure is in narrowing down the options to get to the final outcome. Right?
Yeah, no, and I think you're right. That's something that I like to kind of dive into is, not enough people talk about failure, and ultimately failure is a learning experience, isn't it? And if you don't have the failure, you're never going to learn.
That's exactly right. Yeah, you either win or learn.
Yeah, agreed. And you mentioned like at the start, say not having that 6 million that manufacturers were maybe talking about. How did you go about raising funding to actually get to where you are now? Because as you mentioned before, the numbers that you're doing in what you're producing are like phenomenal from the outside looking in. But how do you get there? Like where do you start?
Yeah, so I think when I started this company, it was the first ever business that I had that I ever raised VC capital from, external capital. So in my previous companies, I either set them up with my own money and they didn't demand a lot of upfront capital because of just the nature of the business, or I had friends and family investing into the businesses. So this is the first one where I actually had to look at the VC world. And again, similarly to what I did with the gummy candy and the 3D printer, I read every book I could find on venture funding. I started listening to podcasts of really well established VCs and principals and investors and capital allocators. I started attending a bunch of webinars and face-to-face meetings at places like Seed Legals. And I worked alongside a coach and with my legal representative, my partner at Cooley, who's obviously very experienced in it. And I had to learn as I went. And so my seed round was the highest ever female founder seed round in UK history, which is not a record I would like to keep. It is disappointing that the record is for such a small amount. It was, I think, 2.7 million. And you think, like, what's the sole male founder seed round limit? I mean, it will be add like several digits, right? Seriously, right? Super disappointing and that happened in 2019, and there has not been a change to that. And that's sad. And I feel disappointed about it. I think there's a couple of reasons why that is, and we can maybe dive into that a little bit more. But that was the hard. A lot of people talk about what's the hardest round. I think your seed round is the hardest round, because I think at your seed round, what do you have? You have a very, very, hopefully, very pretty, well designed, well thought out slide deck. Yeah, PowerPoint, and a decent enough ability to present said PowerPoint But what else are you selling, right? So maybe you have a prototype of an app, or maybe you have a prototype of a physical thing, but in general, you are selling an idea at that stage. You're selling an idea. You have no people, you have no nothing. You have not started the company yet. In general, seed founding is supposed to happen at the very beginning, right? And that is how I did it.
So you didn't have product or anything like that at that stage at all? No. Okay.
No. I had a lot of experience. I had built and sold 3 other companies, and that goes a long way. You can show that you're a successful founder, that you know how to build something and you know how to execute the sale of that thing. I had several patents, so that helped. IP value always helps, but in general, it was really the most difficult thing to get people to take me seriously, because it was, first of all, I knew none of these people at all. They had no personal background. I had no network of people that I could go to and say, introduce me to your wealthy friends. I didn't. I had to literally cold call all of them. But I was able to do it. And I was able to do it from a variety of, high net worth individuals and actual VCs, and even a CVC, actually, in a seed round, which I think is quite rare. When I did my Series A, which came 2 years later, it was easier because I could show the factory. We build all these machines and we're now making product, and we have 10,000 clients and we're sending product out. And I could show our dashboards of our metrics on Shopify. Look at our retention rate. It's over 85%, blah, blah, blah. This was easier to show, but the amount of money that I needed was much more. And COVID happened. And so I didn't actually get to meet a single one of my investors in my Series A until several years later. I did the entire round over Zoom and Teams and Google Meets. It was crazy.
But it can be done. Clearly.
It can be done.
Yeah.
It can be done. And that was our last round. So we raised that round in 2021, and we will go to our Series B probably at the beginning of next year. But that money that I raised allowed me to build 3 factories, add another, 22 patented technologies to our IP portfolio, and of course, make a huge number of products and sell them and develop the different business streams around the world.
And like you say, it's fantastic that you raised that. I think you said 2.7, was it? But the fact that nearly 6 years later, that's still the single biggest amount raised by a female says a lot. What advice would you give to any founders seeking investment, but maybe more specifically to females to kind of learn on your experience?
I think if you don't understand the language that they're using, you will really struggle to get what you want out of a conversation. So I encourage you to upskill yourself on the language. Now, nowadays, you can ask ChatGPT to help you with that. But if you want to go old school, there is a wonderful book, which is updated every single year, called Venture Deals. It is comprehensive. It gives you an understanding of all the different types of capital. It walks you through term sheets, things to be worried about, what is normal, what is not normal. It goes through online. You have like a link when you buy the book, either by Audible or as a traditional paperback, where you can go online. You can see a whole database of every single capital allocator that they have on their database. And it's probably the most comprehensive one that I've seen. It tells you, it teaches you the basics and then gives you a ton of strategy insight. And it's from other founders and capital allocators wrote that book. And it's a ton of different people that came together to create the content, and it gets updated every year. So I encourage you to read that. ChatGPT is a wonderful asset, but I would also encourage you to get access to something like Crunchbase Pro. You can buy Crunchbase Pro as a student or a young person or even a startup at a discounted rate on a monthly basis. As soon as you don't need it anymore, stop paying for it. It's not that much. It's not thousands. It's 50 or 60 quid a month, I think. I can't remember. Do not quote me. But that Crunchbase Pro is a step down from PitchBook. PitchBook is like 50 grand a year. But Crunchbase Pro will allow you to look up every potential investor that you're going to be talking to, and it allows you to see how much they're investing, Are they actually deploying capital? How much of their current fund is still left? That's really important. Do they actually have money? And are they deploying it aggressively, not aggressively? Are they deploying it in your competitors? Are they deploying it in tons of businesses that do not have female founders? Then probably it's going to be a harder battle. Unfortunately, that is unfortunate, but that is actually the statistical truth. Um, and I think one of the things I learned in my first round and my second one was I wasted a ton of time talking to people who had no decision making capability and that had funds that had no money. And there are unfortunately tons of these funds that have analysts that are just calling startups to get research information, just to get data. Don't let them take your time. Your time is your single biggest resource, that is a valuable resource, and that's important. So I would really encourage you to do that. And if you are based in the UK and you're a female founded business, a lot has changed since I did what I did. There is the Invest in Women Task Force. I'm part of the inaugural female founder cohort for the Department of Investment with the government. There are now funds being set up with the money in the Invest in Women Task Force that are going to be where all of the funds will be allocated by female investors to female-led businesses. I encourage you to keep up to date with that. Set Google alerts that send to your email so that you get regular updates, and keep your eyes on the news, because there is a lot happening really quickly, and it is really all positive news.
Yeah, and for a friend of mine who's going to be speaking at the event in October at the Festival of Entrepreneurs, Nell Daly, she's just started a $50 million dollar fund for female
Right.
founders as well. Revenge Capital. Yeah. So
I love that.
stuff is happening. Yeah. Slowly but surely. Slowly but surely.
Love it.
Tell me a little bit about so you've nourished 5 years, getting nearly 6 years. Tell me a little bit more about Scripted as well, and how you kind of differentiated those two brands.
Sure. So, yeah. So the trading company is called Remedy Health, and we have in that trading company two major brands, umbrella brands that we use to put our projects and our products. And so the Nourished brand is everything we do in preventative health. So here we have personalized gummy vitamins, we have ready to buy gummy vitamins, we have menopause, perimenopause, we have gut treatments, we have protein, we have oral care, we're going to be bringing out Nourished Pets, personalized treats for your pets that have active ingredients inside specific to your animals. So that is everything that we are selling to consumers or through retail to consumer. The Scripted business and the Scripted brand is the umbrella over everything that we do in curative health. So this actually, a lot of people don't know this, but this actually started first. So the thing that really gave me the push to start Remedy Health was while doing the candy printing, which we talked about before, I was asked by a spinoff out of a university in London to partner with them to do personalized medicine dispensary for 2 clinical trials in Barcelona. And so we created a printer, we created formulations with certain density or potency levels of different active ingredients, over-the-counter medications, and also amino acid combinations for amino acid deficiency patients. And then the patients would come in and they would have their blood tested. This is their normal treatment regime. And then the blood test would reveal what they were missing from an amino acid point of view. And then the machine would dispense the exact amount for that individual immediately. They would consume it, and then it would be checked. Both of those were a huge success. So actually Scripted started really honestly before the Nourished idea. So personalized health, not many people do, because we don't sell medicine to consumers. So we don't talk about it as much on our website. Now, today, fast forward to today, Scripted has advanced a huge amount. We have done a huge amount of work on drug discovery, scale of phase trials, working alongside patient care providers like hospitals, GPs, and pharmacists, larger scale health organizations and insurance, and drug manufacturers to allow them to personalize dosaging of single APIs and combination APIs for the future of medicine. We believe that this could save the NHS a lot of the 600 million that it currently wastes in throwing medication away that it doesn't need by allowing the patient care providers to print out the dose that they need, not buy 15 versions of the same drug in different dosage levels, right? So much better.
Yeah.
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 So, yeah.
Amazing. And I mean, ultimately, what impact do you want Remedy Health to have on the industry, on people, on how we think about health?
In the very simplest terms, I want Remedy Health to leave the impact of making people realize and understand the benefits of personalizing their health. It has never been possible in authenticity to do so. And today, more than ever, we can. And it is the single best way to improve your health is to personalize the way that you treat yourself, what you consume, how you exercise, and how you sleep, all of those things. Personalizing your health is the single fastest and best way to ensure that you live the longest life at the highest level quality of life.
Love that. And super simple, like you said.
Yeah.
Going to finish up with a quick fire round. So first thing that you can think of comes into your head. For you, what is an entrepreneur? What defines an entrepreneur?
An entrepreneur is a person who does not accept the status quo and wants to find better ways to do things.
Like it. What does this country need to do to get more startups?
It needs to protect the incentive programs that currently exist for startups, and it needs to make it possible for them to access capital for all different types of businesses at early stage and at growth stage. And one of the ways I think that they can do that is by releasing some of the punch and money, which I know they're working on, but it isn't exactly moving at the pace that I would love to see.
And you're probably better positioned than anyone else I'm going to speak to ask this question, but why is the USA better at producing scale-ups and unicorn businesses than the UK?
The single biggest differentiator between the US and the UK is the amount of money given to the bright young founders that are coming up with ideas. Now, that also means a lot of money is wasted because I don't think that the success rate is higher in America. I just think that more people are given money and enough money to be able to take an idea from zero to the moon. The amount of money that is available and the valuations and the think big, dream big general way of life there is just different. I don't think it is actually better. I actually, if I thought it was better, I would be there. I actually think there are some really amazing things in the UK that make it the best place in the world for a startup and scale up if you are in certain industries. And one of those things is research and development heavy industries. Patent box, R&D tax relief, the EMI plan, SEIS and EIS, those are world leading. There is not really an equal on earth. And so if we can protect those and stop messing with them, and then also find ways of getting private funding into these startups in a more robust way, I think we would be very tough to beat.
Great answer. What's a scale-up business for you?
A scale-up business is a business which has made it through the startup phase, has learned a lot, and is now actually more fragile, I think, than when you're a startup, because when you are bigger and you fall down, it's a much more painful fall.
What can entrepreneurs look forward to when hearing you at the Festival of Entrepreneurs?
Well, I'm so excited about it. We were talking about it before we came on the recording. I think it's wonderful that we're doing a festival of this type in the UK. I think it's absolutely needed. And I will be talking about my journey, about fundraising, about female entrepreneurship, about technology, manufacturing, and anything else the audience wants to ask me.
Fantastic. Which founder, if you could name one, do you admire most?
Really hard. It is so hard. There are so many that I admire. I am trying to think of one that I really love. Because every time, if I say one, then I'm going to be doing a bad service to the others. I think because she's top of mind, because I'm seeing her tonight, Maxine Lakesby from Absolute Collagen. I think she was had no experience whatsoever in business. I don't think she was even working full time. She developed her collagen brand in her kitchen and has built it to an extremely large, I think the biggest collagen brand in the UK. Works alongside her daughter, Darcy, who I also know very well. And I think the way she runs that business is it's really lovely. It's a real traditional family business, but with ridiculously good results.
I think you're the second or third person to mention them recently that I've heard about. And I was just about to ask you, who would you recommend to be a guest on the show? But that sounds like it'd be a good recommendation.
She is wonderful. She's so straight talking. She has a really unique story. She can talk about her experience with PE. I highly recommend her. She's also from Birmingham. So she's based here. So am I. So she and I are both on the board of the Lifted Project, which is a program in the Midlands to support female founders to access capital. And so, yeah, I have so much respect for her. She gives a lot of her time back. She's also now an active angel investor. So I highly encourage you to get her on here.
Okay, I might be coming back to you for an intro then.
Absolutely. Happy to do it. I will see her tonight. I'll mention it to her.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Last question for you, Melissa. What do you want to be remembered for?
Oh,
big question.
It is a big question. I suppose I would like to be remembered for my tenacity.
Love it. That's brilliant. I think you shall. Clearly.
Hopefully. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, look, thank you so much for allocating some time to do this. Really appreciate it, and look forward to meeting you in person once again this October.
Me too. Thank you again. Have a great day.
You too. Thanks very much.
That conversation just proves something. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So here's my challenge. Upgrade your network. The Festival of Entrepreneurs is happening October the 8th and 9th, and I'm giving my listeners free 2-day passes to get in the room with 5,000 to 10,000 entrepreneurs who are actually building something. This is where the risk takers, the game changers, and the people who've decided to screw it and just do it come for inspiration, education, and connection. Don't just listen to their success stories, go meet the people living them. Grab your free pass now, because the biggest risk isn't taking a chance, it's missing the opportunity entirely. If this conversation resonated with you, don't just sit there, act on it. Make sure you follow or subscribe for more game-changing conversations, and remember, the only thing standing between you and your business breakthrough is the decision to screw it and just do it.